national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ivy Championship is sponsored and run by the Super Football Conference. Founded in 2016, the Super Football Conference is the nation's largest high school football conference, featuring 4 conferences. The Super Football Conference is home to 113 member schools, including some of the finest academic and athletic programs in the country. The Super Football Conference is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the development of student athletes and to building strong communities by educating, inspiring, and motivating players, coaches, parents, and fans. The leadership of the Super Football Conference would like to thank the Bergen County Executive, Jim Tedesco, Bergen County Commissioners, and the Bergen County Parks Department for supporting and hosting the Ivy Championship since its inception. Please join us in welcoming Commissioner Tom Sullivan as he will flip the coin for tonight's contest. Teaneck won the toss and did the third, correct?
I think so. He was on the Teaneck side.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome here to Vince Lombardi Memorial Field in Palisades Park, New Jersey, the setting for the 2022 Ivy Division Championship. As tonight's a long championship drought will come to an end for one of these schools as the Teaneck Highwaymen, 7-1 on the season, take on the 7-1 Fort Lee Bridgemen. Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Long, joined alongside by Dimitri Nanis and Renee Manisich, and we're so glad that you could join us for Bridgeman football here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. A beautiful night here for football in Bergen County in Palisades Park, New Jersey. This neutral site showdown here this evening with a championship on the line. 63 degrees, a comfortable evening here in early November. Fort Lee in their home black uniforms with the white numerals, the black helmets, while Teaneck is going to be in their road white tops with blue pants, blue numerals, and blue helmets. Charles Salome, the head coach in his 4th season at the helm of Fort Lee, has led the Bridgemen to their most wins since 2016. And Harold Clark on the sideline for Teaneck, as Fort Lee will receive to start off tonight's festivities, and they will be tackled just outside the 25-yard line. Be a 1st down and 10 upcoming now for the Bridgeman offense, an offense that has been explosive all season long for Coach Salome, averaging 29.6 points per game this season, and led by their outstanding senior quarterback, Raymond Lau. Lau, the 6'1", 175-pound senior, last week threw for 79 yards and a touchdown against Pascack Hills. For his career, he's thrown for over 1,400 yards and 16 touchdowns. So it'll be first down and 10 at the Fort Lee 27 for the Bridgemen here, starting off this evening on offense after Teaneck won the opening coin toss and elected to defer to start off with the ball in the start of the second half. Penalty flags greet us before we could even get to the opening snap of this game run by the Fort Lee offense. So it was a penalty flag that they will wave off. So it will remain first down and 10 for the Bridgemen, starting off this opening drive of the night at their own 27-yard line. Lau in the shotgun spread. It'll be a handoff this time. On the first play from scrimmage, Tejon Burns will carry the pile with him out past the 30-yard line, down to the 32. A gain of 5 on the play. Second down and 5 now upcoming for Fort Lee. A nice crowd assembled here. On the far sideline, you'll see the visiting bleachers of the blue-clad fans from Teaneck taking on Fort Lee. It's a matchup of the Highwaymen and the Bridgemen here today. Second down and 5 upcoming now for Fort Lee. The ball at the Bridgemen 33-yard line, so an opportunity here after that pickup of 5 on first down for Burns. Motion man, but it's going to be a handoff to number 26 again as Burns will move the pile forward. Tejon Burns with 918 rushing yards on the season with 10 touchdowns coming into tonight's action. He ran wild last week in the semifinals against Pascack Hills, 24 carries for 122 yards rushing for the 5'10 senior last week. Now it's going to set up a third down and about 1 situation now for Fort Lee. They've just been keeping it on the ground in the first 2 plays of this opening drive of the night here in Palisades Park. Burns again is going to get his number called, gets enough for the first down and some. Moves the pile past the 45-yard line, and it's going to be just shy of midfield. Another good run there for Fort Lee, and the Bridgemen get their first down of the evening. Fort Lee on the season, they run wild. They average around 281 yards rushing per game, and it's a big, heavy dose of number 26 already, and Burns already with another first down for Fort Lee. A first down on first down as Burns moves the pile, and Coach Salome's side going high tempo here, breakneck pace as they hurry to the line of scrimmage. It's going to be second and inches, so not official first down. Now it will be as they move the pile again inside the 40 down to the Highwaymen 39-yard line. As Fort Lee has now picked up a pair of first downs here in this opening offensive drive of the night. Fort Lee went 5-4 a season ago, lost to Teaneck by a point, 21-20 in a consolation game. They are trying to look for the Ivy Division Championship and in the process win their first league title since 1983. That is the drought that Fort Lee is trying to snap here tonight. Good start already. First down and 10 for Fort Lee at the Teaneck 39. Jet sweep over to the near side, looking for the edge, but good job of pursuit to the football there by Teaneck. Making the tackle was number 28, Alexis Delgado, making a stop there as Balbuena was the one who got the handoff. The wide receiver, the 5'8 sophomore with a jet sweep, only managed to pick up about a yard on the play. Second down and 9 upcoming. As you can see, 9:37 left to go here in our opening quarter of play. Thanks for joining us here on YouTube, courtesy of the Fort Lee Athletic Department. This time it's going to be a handoff to David Gutierrez. He tries to bounce it to the outside, and good pursuit to the football yet again by Teaneck. They'll prevent the ball to cross the 35-yard line. It's going to be third down and long upcoming here for Fort Lee, and we have yet to see a pass attempt so far here tonight for the Bridgemen. Teaneck also trying to snap a long championship drought of their own. The Highwaymen are looking for their first divisional title win since 2006, when they finished 9-2 overall in the season. So someone's long championship drought will come to an end here tonight. Third down and about 7 now. It will be another handoff to Burns, rumbling his way forward to the right side. Gets stacked up and around the 30. A rugby scrum pushes him forward. That's going to be the extra effort needed to move the chains. That's going to be the third down of this opening drive. That's all about confidence there, fans, on a 3rd down and 7 when it's normally down and distance a passing situation. Just putting the ball in the hands of your senior tailback who's coming up on 1,000 rushing yards on the season, and you pick up the 3rd and 7 on the ground. Fort Lee again now inside the Teaneck 30. 1st down and 10 for the Bridgemen at the Highwaymen 28-yard line. Now it's going to be a little bit of a misdirection and a handoff inside. And again, it's going to be Teaneck starting to clean up in the middle there. The defense this season for Coach Harold Clark and Teaneck has been exceptional. The team has allowed a grand total of 74 points through 8 games, allowing 9.3 points per game this season to their opponents. The Teaneck defense has held 5 of their 8 opponents to 7 points or less this season and have produced 3 consecutive shutouts coming into tonight's festivities. Late substitute, as it looks like one of the players for Fort Lee was being sent off. Camano will go on. Gutierrez will come in, as it'll be 2nd down and 9. 7:42 and counting left to go in a scoreless first quarter. A long opening drive to begin tonight's Ivy Division Championship for Fort Lee. They run Burns to the right side, and Burns getting a great push up the top and up the middle by his offensive line, allowing Burns to maneuver his way down inside the 25-yard line as Fort Lee is closing in on the red zone. 3rd down and about 4. Here's going to be a passing opportunity, and the pass is just a little too long. That time, Lau was looking for Gabe Jimenez as the 6'1 junior tight end had released down the right side on the near hash marks and was open, but Lau just accurately could not get it to him in time. 4th down and 4 now for Fort Lee. First time that they've been faced with a 4th down opportunity in this opening drive. They've converted a couple of first downs so far here this evening. Teaneck looking to bend but not break on defense and make a stop here in the opening drive of the night for the Bridgemen here on O. They fake the handoff to Burns. It's a quick pitch and catch, and that pass is dropped by Balbuena on the far side, and that's going to be a turnover on downs, and possession will shift over to Teaneck. So Teaneck makes the stand defensively. Fort Lee was able to produce 3 different first downs in that opening drive, but were incomplete in their last 2 passing attempts, as it fell incomplete on the pass attempt to Jimenez and then to Balbuena. That would have been enough for a first down to keep the drive alive. So Teaneck will take over on downs. 1st down and 10 for the Highwaymen at their own 23-yard line. As this will be an offense led by Vance Mixon, starting off at quarterback, number 15. Teaneck's offense averaging 27.9 points per game this season. Just like Fort Lee, they do most of their damage on the ground, averaging about 182 yards rushing per contest. Ball spotted at the 25-yard line. 2nd down and 8 now for Teaneck. 7-1 on the season, coming into play here today off a 21-7 win against Cliffside Park. Both Teaneck and Fort Lee were victorious last week against teams that handed them their lone defeats on the season. Fort Lee defeated Pascack Hills, who had defeated Teaneck in the regular season. Cliffside Park, the lone team to top the Bridgemen this year, the victim of Teaneck. And that's a broken up play. Great play in the secondary there by Fort Lee, as Balbuena knocking the pass away. And that sets up 3rd down and 8 now, as Fort Lee's defense trying to force a quick 3-and-out to start off tonight's play here in the first quarter. 6:20 left to go as we're closing in already based on that long sustained opening drive of Fort Lee. We're coming up on the midway point of the first quarter. This defense this season for Fort Lee fans has been historic. They've allowed a grand total of 69 points in 8 games this season, as they have been absolutely staunch. They've produced 4 shutouts this season. That has tied them for most shutouts in a Fort Lee football season with the 1951 and 1969 seasons. Third down and 8 now upcoming for Teaneck. Ball spotted at their own 25-yard line. Again, Teaneck not really built as a passing offense this season. They will hand it off, and unlike Fort Lee that caught the Teaneck defense by surprise, Fort Lee snuffed it out and found it right in the backfield for a tackle for a loss in the play. It's going to be 4th down and about 11 after a 3-yard loss on 3rd down, and that'll send the punting unit onto the field for Harold Clark. Back in his familiar spot on the sidelines leading the Teaneck program. His 5th season as the head coach at Teaneck, but he had served as the head coach previously from 2015 to 2018, then went away, came back, and has resurrected the program this year. 7-1 mark as he's looking to lead Teaneck to their first championship since 2006. Teaneck went 2-8 a season ago. A lot of motion right at the line of scrimmage. We'll see with all the yellow laundry draping the flag who's going to be this marked off against. Is it going to be a motion call against Teaneck, or is it going to be neutral zone infraction? So Fort Lee jumped a little too early. That'll gift Teaneck 5 yards, but again, it's going to be a punting situation as the Highwaymen are going to be kicking from deep in their own end. So they get a little more room to operate now as they're getting set to kick this one away. Rashad Richardson, the senior, is the punter standing back at around his own 10-yard line. Fort Lee brings the pressure, but Richardson gets it away. It's going to be a short kick. We'll take a Teaneck bounce. And then the Highwaymen dive on top of it. Probably could have allowed it to bounce a little bit more. But then that ends as that's going to be possession coming up now for Fort Lee.
Let's meet the referees tonight. Our referees, James Tolomeo. The umpires, Reverend David Hanson. The linesman is Jim.
So Fort Lee's going to take over on offense for the second time this evening. They had a long sustained drive that ended eventually in a turnover on downs in Teaneck territory. And we have not seen a pass completed yet in this game between the two sides. 5:20 left to go here in the first quarter. Dan Long, happy to have you join us here to watch this 2022 championship game in the Ivy Division. As John Burns will take it to the left side and get close to midfield on that carry. He'll be spotted directly at the 50.
14 for Teaneck on the tackle. Burns picks up 5.
Quentin Frazier making the stop, number 14, the 5'11", 160-pound junior cornerback making the stop for the Highwaymen. Again, Teaneck, 3 consecutive shutouts produced on the season, or three shutouts, I should say, not consecutively produced. So both of these defenses, points are going to be at a premium here today between both of them, a combined 7 shutouts on the year. That's going to be a handoff to Burns to the near side. Burns breaks contain into Teaneck territory. It's going to be a first down for the Bridgemen.
Burns for 10 yards. Another Fort Lee first down.
Burns needed 82 yards rushing here tonight to eclipse 1,000 yards on the season. He might have that before halftime. Burns is running downhill and running mad. First down and 10 for Fort Lee now at the Teaneck 40-yard line. 4:13 and counting left to go here in a scoreless first quarter. Lau barking out the instructions and Caden's call at his, looking at his play sheet at the line of scrimmage, has a little time to operate here. Lau has not been able to complete a pass on that opening drive. He finished off that drive, last 2 incompletions. And now it's going to be a timeout taken by Fort Lee. They weren't on the same page with 3:49 left to go here in the first quarter. Still scoreless between Fort Lee and Teaneck as you're watching coverage of the 2022 Ivy Division Championship here from Overpeck Park in Palisades Park, New Jersey on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. So that was the first timeout taken by either side so far in the beginning of tonight's game. An absolute beautiful night for football. Again, about 63 degrees at opening kickoff. The sun is set here on an early November evening with championship hardware on the line. Burns over to the near side. Burns again, another first down, all the way down inside the 20-yard line. Burns over to the right side, got through the second and third levels and carried a couple of defenders with him. Fort Lee quickly going, no huddle here. They hand it off to Burns again, and Burns runs right into number 70, who was enveloping him there, Jonathan Reed. And still, despite Reed having the size advantage, Burns went right into his chest and propelled him forward. Another big pickup there by Burns, as this is the first time that Fort Lee has entered inside the opposing red zone. Just over 3 minutes left to go in a scoreless first quarter, but Fort Lee is threatening on their second offensive possession of the night. Second down and about 4. Burns will line up to the right side of Lau in the shotgun. Balbuena, the motion man. They'll hand it off inside to the left side now to Burns. Gets it to around the 10-yard line. And it might be third and short upcoming now here for Fort Lee. As the Teaneck bands and cheerleaders try to get loud in support of their defense from the far side of the field. Third and short situation now for the Bridgemen. Trying to make this an opportunity of first and goal if they could pick up the first down here. Burns to the right side again of Lau as he starts the motion. Several players now line up to the right side of the line. Burns to the left side. He goes to that right side. Puts it down. It's enough for a first down inside the 5-yard line. It'll be first and goal upcoming now for Fort Lee. Burns is such a workhorse, fans. 113 carries on the season coming into tonight's game, averaging 8.1 yards per carry. Ball's going to be marked just inside the 3-yard line. First and goal upcoming for Coach Salome and his Bridgemen. Trying to strike for the first points of this 2022 Ivy Division Championship. Now it's going to be a Wildcat set. Direct snap coming to Burns. Low snap. Ball is kicked around. The ball is loose inside a scrum. And did Fort Lee just get on top of it? And boy, are they fortunate that they got to that. Burns kind of was looking forward at where he was going to go before he could cleanly secure that snap. And the ball is going to be taken inside the 1-yard line. So Fort Lee, even on that mishandle, picked up about 2 yards just outside the goal line. So it's going to be second and goal now from around the 2. Lau will come back in to play quarterback. Burns will line up to the left side of him. Burns with 10 rushing touchdowns on the year. Hand off to number 26, propels his way forward. Touchdown, Fort Lee. To John Burns with his 11th rushing touchdown of the season. And with 49 seconds left to go in the first quarter, Fort Lee has taken a 6-0 lead, cashing in on their second offensive drive of the night. So the opening drive ended in a turnover on downs in opposing territory. Teaneck not able to keep Fort Lee from scoring there. Extra point kick is up, and the extra point is good by Stasi Kotsogiannis. And the Bridgemen score the first 7 points of the night with 49 ticks on the clock. It's Fort Lee on top of Teaneck, 7-0 here on YouTube.
hometown ticketing and mascot media.
So the Bridgmen stake themselves out to a 7-0 advantage. A week ago, they defeated Pascack Hills on the road 13-0. So once again, continuing that trend of being the first one to score. Fort Lee enters into tonight's game riding high on a 6-game win streak on the season. Their lone loss came on the road against arch rival Cliffside Park back on September 17th, a 21-14 road loss. But since then, Fort Lee has rebounded to win against Nork Eastside, Ferris, Dwight Morrow, Memorial, Kearney, and Pascack Hills, putting them in a position here to try to take down Teaneck. The Highwaymen have been playing the majority of this first quarter on defense. Their offense only saw 3 plays before they had to punt it away after going 3 and out on their opening drive on offense. 43 seconds left to go here in the opening quarter. Teaneck facing a 7-point deficit now, as they'll hand it off to the right side, stacking the box and limiting the damage to a gain of about 3 on first down. Adriel Perez, the 5'7", 160-pound junior running back. 337 rushing yards on the season for Perez heading into tonight's game. 20 seconds left to go, so this is most likely going to be the final play of this opening quarter. A quarter that has been dominated by Fort Lee. They lead by 7-0. Mixon at quarterback in the shotgun with the running back to the right side of him. First passing attempt. He drops back to pass. He's getting pressured. Sidesteps the defender. Will tuck it down and run with it himself to the far sideline. Scampers out of bounds and might have enough based on where he's spotted. It looks like he's going to be just shy of the line to get. But a scramble on that play by Mixon, using his feet to his advantage to avoid that pass rush up the middle, as Fort Lee was bringing the pressure up front, and that'll be the final play of the first quarter. 12 minutes in the books. It's Fort Lee on top of Teaneck by a score of 7-0, as we'll head to the start of the second quarter coming up shortly, as you're watching all the action here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Welcome back here, as it's going to be 3rd down and 2 in the start of the second quarter. There's pressure in the backfield, a fumble on the play. Ball is loose, picked up. It's going to be a scoop and score for Fort Lee on D. Jaden Lugo was the man who scooped it up and ran it in after that initial pressure was brought in the backfield. Mixon, the quarterback for Teaneck, didn't even have a chance to set himself. A collision ensued. The ball was left all by its lonesome and picked up and scored by Jaden Lugo. His second fumble recovery of the season, a defensive touchdown for Fort Lee. And it's all Bridgman here in the first half, 13-0. Just 9 seconds into the start of quarter number 2. Extra point kick is good by Kotsagiannis. He's now 20 for 21 on the season in PATs. So Fort Lee scores late in the end of the first quarter on offense with a Burns rushing touchdown. And now to start off the second quarter, a defensive touchdown on a scoop and score and a fumble recovery brought back to the house by Jaden Lugo. And Fort Lee enjoys a 2-score advantage just 9 seconds into the start of the second quarter of play. If you're Coach Salome, couldn't ask for a better start to this game for your side. Obviously, you would have loved to have capped off that opening drive with points, but The defense has been impenetrable in the start of this game. The offense has been grinding down a Teaneck defense that is one of the better defenses in the Ivy Division. And now Fort Lee is in front, 14-0. It's going to be a penalty flag on the field before we can get to that kickoff. It might have been an encroachment call. That will be the case. Offside's the call against Fort Lee. Fort Lee getting a little anxious there with their kickoff unit crossing by before even the kicker was able to connect with the ball. So 5-yard penalty deducted against the Bridgmen. So now it's going to be the ball spotted at the 35-yard line. Fort Lee on top, 14-0. As they'll boot this one away, it's going to be a squib kick picked up by Kaba just outside his own 35-yard line, and he'll cross his own 40. So this will be the best starting field position to begin a drive, the third offensive drive of the night now for Teaneck. And Teaneck now facing a 2-score deficit, trailing 14-0. Again, for Teaneck, they've been on a roll this season as well. They come into tonight's game with a 7-game win streak. Their lone defeat came in their season opener. At home against Pascack Hills, they lost to the Broncos 27-7. But since then, they've wins against Indian Hills, Dover, Hopatcong, Ferris, Dwight Morrow, Fairlawn, and Cliffside Park 21-7 a week ago. But now they have some adversity staring them in the face. First down and 10 for Teaneck after that fumble that was returned for a score. Now Mixon's going to be taking it himself to the far side on the option play to the far side. It was a fake handoff and a carry just to the other side by Vance Mixon. Mixon had a rushing touchdown a week ago in the win against Cliffside Park. He's a dual threat. Has thrown for 228 passing yards this season, also 232 rushing yards this year, along with 6 touchdowns. Good pick up there, and it's going to be just shy of midfield. Ball is going to be spotted in the far hash mark at the Teaneck 48-yard line. Highwaymen still in search of their first down of this first half. Second down and 4 now upcoming for Teaneck. Looks like a little shuffle going on, but the officials play on. It's going to be a handoff to the near side to Tyree Porter Jr., and Porter Jr. is strung out to the near side. He gets it to midfield, but that still will bring up third down. Ball marked at midfield. It's going to be third down and 2 upcoming for the Highwaymen. Porter initially, when he got that handoff, looked like he was going to have the edge outside of the tackle to the near side. But instead, it was great recovery defense there by Fort Lee to limit the damage to only a gain of 2. Third down and 2 coming up on a minute gone by here in the start of the second quarter. Already a 14-0 lead for Fort Lee, acting as the home team here in this matchup tonight. Going to be a fake handoff, a jet sweep. It's going to be Mixon, the quarterback keeper, up the middle. It's going to be stacked up and should be enough for a first down as he crosses past midfield and into Fort Lee territory. Fort Lee was trying to stack him up inside, but just couldn't get to him enough. Ruben Mancillo was the one, number 56, who made the tackle for the Bridgmen. 10:33 and counting left to go here in the first half. First down of the night now for Teaneck. Give their defense just a little bit of a breather at least, even if they can't score. Vance Mixon gets the play call from the far sideline, breaks the huddle. As now the Highwaymen setting up for the first time in Fort Lee territory. The Bridgman 46-yard line. Mixon fakes the pass, will scramble his way to the far side, and he can't get contained. Tried to break it out to the outside, but David Gutierrez will bring him down, a tackle for a loss on the play, as Mixon kept on going more east-west rather than north-south running. And with that explosive style to the outside, Gutierrez made the play in space and gets the tackle for a loss near midfield. It's going to be second down and long upcoming now for Teaneck with the ball back to the 49-yard line. David Gutierrez, 23 tackles on the season, 10 tackles for a loss, give him 11 now after that play made behind the line of scrimmage. Loss of 3 in the play, 2nd down and 13. Wide receiver wide open down the far side, but dropped. Might have lost it in the lights. Teaneck had an opportunity for their biggest play of the night. The man was wide open in the far side of the field, and it just was a simple drop on the play. A big sigh of relief for the Fort Lee faithful here at the Lombardi Memorial Field. That could have been a big play down the far side. Instead, it's just a misplay, and it's going to set up 3rd down and 13. 3rd down and 13 for Teaneck. Again, neither team is making their money here tonight through the air. Missed opportunities abound for both sides. We'll see if Mixon again is going to be trying to operate as a passing threat here. 3rd down and 13 is a quick wide receiver screen play to the far side. That goes through the fingertips of Rashad Richardson, the leading wide receiver. And that'll bring up 4th down and 13. And you'd have to think that Coach Harold Clark's going to bring his punting unit onto the field, trying to play a little field position here, as this will be 4th down and 13. Fourth down and 13 for Teaneck, so they pick up their first down of the night, but no points come from this drive, as now Fort Lee is having their punt returner waiting back. That's a shanked kick that will carry him its way out of bounds to the far side, as Richardson just had a line drive kick, couldn't get any air underneath it, and no yardage. So it's going to be good starting field position here for Fort Lee, in control with 9:05 left to go before halftime, 14-0. The Bridgemen on top, trying to win their first divisional championship since 1983. So Fort Lee's defense has a defensive touchdown of their own. The offense, last time they were out, cashed in their 2nd drive of the night with a rushing touchdown by this man, Burns, once again, taking a couple of Teaneck Highwaymen players for a ride as he gets it all the way out past the 45-yard line. 1st down and 10, and here goes that up-tempo look now for Fort Lee. They get it to Burns again to the 47-yard line. This might be coming back, though, as there's a penalty flag on the field. We'll sort this out and see if it's going to be possibly in the area of a hold. So the penalty will go against the offense, negating that run on 1st down. And high school football fans, again, it's not just the automatic 10 yards, it's where the spot of the foul occurred. Then the 10 yards are marked off from that spot. So you could have even costlier penalties like we're seeing right now, as that penalty happened way back in the backfield. That'll move the ball all the way back inside the Fort Lee 35 down to around the Bridgeman 32-yard line. Only time that the running attack has really been stopped so far this evening has been a self-inflicted wound of a penalty there and a hold call. First and a country mile now for Lau and company with a low snap. Lau throws the interception. This might be a pick 6 for Teaneck, and it will be. Touchdown, Highwaymen. An ill-advised throw there by Lau. He was surprised with a low snap, then quickly just tried to fire a fastball to the outside, and it was intercepted in return for a touchdown by Teaneck. Both defenses, two of the better defenses in the Ivy Division this year. We shouldn't be surprised that both units now have produced points on their own. An interception return for a touchdown, and Teaneck right back in the thick of things here. 1 point away from making this a 7-point deficit. Whistles sound before that extra point could be booted home. It would have been good. But again, a penalty flag. And it's going to be offsides, the call against Fort Lee. So we'll see if Coach Clark will elect to go for 2 or just decline the penalty. And We'll see right now what they're going to be trying to do. If ball's going to be marked inside the 2-yard line at the 1 with a half the distance call. I don't know if there was the motion of Teaneck was deciding to send out the unit and just collect the points. Looks like they're going to have to send out the unit again, so it doesn't look like with the officials are going to be saying that the point was good. So it looks like they'll just have them re-kick again to make this official and try to make this a 14-7 game. The extra point kick this time is up, and the kick is good by Kieran Showard. Showard, the senior, booting home his 22nd successful PAT of the year. And an interception return for a touchdown for Teaneck have gotten the Highwaymen back to within 1 score. It's 14-7. Fort Lee on top of Teaneck with 8:23 left to go in our first half of play. The interception return for a touchdown by number 30, Jeremiah Harmit. The 5'5 sophomore outside linebacker read the eyes of Lau. And Lau, only his 3rd interception thrown all season. Again, he was pressured. It was a low snap, trying to quickly fire that one to the outside. And that was picked off by Harmit. And Harmit now has made this a 1-score game. Now Fort Lee trying to have an immediate response on the kickoff return. They'll get it out past their own 30-yard line. So now Fort Lee will head back on offense with their 14-point deficit trimmed down to 7 with 8:16 left to go here in our second quarter of play. Raymond Lau now with 8 touchdown passes thrown, 3 interceptions on the season. Costly interception there. Now is given a little bit of life and a little momentum now on Teaneck's side after it had been all Fort Lee just prior to that interception. Low snap again, and it's a fumble exchange. The ball was loose. A whistle was sounded, and the referee is going to say that that was down by contact. And that's a big call because it looks like Teaneck were going to be the recipients of a potential fumble recovery. So a loss in the play there for Fort Lee. Again, after it looked like that was a loose ball that they generously had the referee say down by contact. It looked like it was anyone's possession, and actually had been picked up by a Teaneck defender. So it's going to be second and long this time. The snap was handled, the handoff to Burns, but you kind of feel a shift starting to happen here, fans, as Teaneck starting to get a little more get up here defensively and making the stop. It's now going to be 3rd and long for the Fort Lee offense. 7:39 and counting left to go here in the first half. 14-7. Fort Lee on top of Teaneck here as you're watching coverage of the 2022 Ivy Division Football Championship under the lights here in Overpeck Park in Palisades Park, New Jersey, courtesy of the Fort Lee Athletic Department's YouTube channel. Dan Long, Dimitri Nanis, Renee Matisich on the broadcast. Drop-off pass across the middle of the field. It's going to be Burns, who hauls in his 8th reception of the season. Gets it out past the 40-yard line. Still going to be short, looks like, of the line to get. One of the officials on the far side, though, was motioning for a first down, and that is enough for a first down. So Teaneck not able to convert there in terms of making a stop on a 3rd and long, getting the Fort Lee offense off the field and getting their offense maybe a chance to tie it up. Fort Lee able to drop off the pass across the middle of the field to Burns, and Burns did just enough to get enough for the first down. On a 3rd down and about 13, they convert. It's going to be 1st down and 10 with 6:45 and counting. Lau again across the middle of the field, and that time just a little off the mark as he was trying to fit it in a tight window to Isaiah Stang. Stang, who's a standout on the basketball hardwood, was trying to cut over to the near sideline. Good coverage in the play there by Teaneck. 2nd down and 10 now upcoming. So Lau was able to convert on that screen pass set up to Burns across the middle of the field to keep this drive going here for Fort Lee. 2nd down and 10 for the Bridgemen. 6:41 left to go in the second quarter. Ball at the Fort Lee 42. Hand off to Burns. Burns bowling his way past midfield into Teaneck territory. That's going to be a 10-yard run on 2nd and 10 and a fresh set of downs here for the Bridgemen. Right now they have the marker on the far side right at the line to get as 3rd down, but that should be enough for a 1st down. And that is the case as we saw the near side official motioning for the chain gang to set up downfield. Fresh set of downs. And once again, Fort Lee operating in Teaneck territory. 1st down and 10 at the Highwaymen 48-yard line. Burns with a rushing touchdown already in this first half. He's working on a big night. It's going to be a handoff this time to a wide receiver. He'll get it out past the 45-yard line as that was a handoff to Savion Camano. Camano getting the handoff that time. The junior, 353 rushing yards on the season, 4 touchdowns. Beg your pardon, Camano, one of the running backs, getting what it amounts to his 2nd carry of this first half for Coach Salome's side. 5:43 left to go here in the second quarter. 2nd down and about 6 now from the Teaneck 44-yard line. Burns to the right side. Hole develops. Burns trucks his way forward. Right up and over the leading tackler for Teaneck and Alexander Caba. And that's going to be a 1st down for Burns and Fort Lee. And once again, Fort Lee, no strangers to the physical style of running. They search out the contact. They thrive on the punishing runs. 1st down and 10 for the Bridgemen now at the Teaneck 35-yard line. We've only seen 1 offensive touchdown between the two sides so far in this first half. We've managed to see 2 defensive touchdowns between the two teams. A fumble return for a touchdown by Lugo of Fort Lee, and then an interception return for a touchdown by Jeremiah Harmon of Teaneck in the last offensive possession of the night prior to this one for the Bridgemen. 2nd down and 7 now for Fort Lee. Under 5 minutes left to go in the second quarter. Fort Lee trying once again to extend their advantage to 2 touchdowns just before halftime. Play action, Lau, wide open receiver, down the field, touchdown, Fort Lee. Jaden Lugo, 2 catches on the year for Lugo. Both of them have gone for touchdowns. Lau makes amends after throwing the pick 6. And Fort Lee with their 3rd touchdown of the first half. Jaden Lugo with 2 catches now this year, 2 touchdowns. He's been the money man. Coach Giannis' kick is up. The extra point is good. And now Fort Lee once again up by 2 touchdowns. It's a 21-7 advantage for Fort Lee with 4:23 left to go in our first half of play. The Bridgemen, rather than grounds and pounds, that time go to the air. And Raymond Lau throws his 9th touchdown pass of the season. And everything coming up Bridgemen again, as once again they're back up by 14. That's what Burns does to you. He just wears you down, and then Teaneck decided to try to take him away, load up the box, and that led their secondary to be susceptible to that play. Nobody was in the same area code as Jaden Lugo. Lugo just had to hold on to the catch, and he saw plenty of green in front of him. Lugo has now 2 touchdowns in this game. He had the fumble recovery for a defensive touchdown that gave Fort Lee a 14-0 lead. Now he's got the receiving score that extends the lead to 21-7. That squib kick gets deflected off the hands of number 9, Justin Meyer. And Meyer will pounce on it as it is a loose ball and a kickoff. And now Teaneck will take over, once again trailing by 2 scores with 4:20 left to go in our second quarter of action. Highwaymen have yet to produce an offensive touchdown in this first half. Again, their lone touchdown, an interception return for a touchdown that pulled them back to within 7. So this defense that prided itself on shutting down opponents this season, as I mentioned at the beginning of the game, fans, Teaneck's defense had held 5 of their 8 opponents to 7 points or less, had produced 3 shutouts on the year, and had not allowed more than 13 points since September 24th. Well, they've been victimized for 21 points in this first half alone. So Teaneck will now try to start it up again with their offense, running it over to the far side. Diving forward in that play was Perez. A late penalty flag also meets us near the end of that play, as Perez once again was just trying to find and wait and patiently see a hole develop, but that hole wasn't coming, and the penalty will go against Teaneck. The Highwaymen, again, last won a divisional title in 2006 when they finished 9-2 overall in the season. This season's 7 wins are the most since that 2006 campaign, and also their first overall winning season in program history since 2006. Holding call will move the ball back to the 25. First and 17 now upcoming with 4 minutes and change left to go here in the second quarter. Fort Lee looking for their first league title since they captured the BCSL American Division title back in 1983 when they finished 7-2 that year. They're looking to reach the 8-win plateau for the first time since going 8-2 in 1985. And they're in position right now, in charge by 14. Mixon will drop it off to the far side. Good spin out of that elusive tackle attempt, and that's a big play. First and 17 doesn't daunt them as Teaneck gets enough, making a couple of defenders miss what should have been a small gain at best. Ballooned into a big play as Perez, showing his shiftiness in the open field, gets enough for a first down. And out close to midfield. Ball's going to be spotted at the Teaneck 47-yard line in the far hash mark. First down and 10 for the Highwaymen. As we're coming up on 3 minutes left to go here in the second quarter. Biggest play from scrimmage offensively there by Teaneck here tonight on that dump-off pass to Perez, the running back. Mixon in the shotgun, drops back to pass. Perez does a good job of picking up the blitzer. Mixon will throw on the run, tries to fit it in a tight window. Richardson could not hold on to it. There is a penalty flag, though, in the secondary at around the 26-yard line in Fort Lee territory. Even if Richardson held on to it, he was not going to be in the course of play. Would not have counted as a clean reception, but we'll sort out what the penalty is. Holding the call against the defense.
The penalty is going to be against Fort Lee. Holding is the call.
2:57 now left to go in the second quarter. Teaneck will obviously take the penalty. And with that being spotted off, that's going to be enough for a first down in the play. Fresh set of downs here for the Highwaymen. Average 27.9 points per game this season. 20 rushing touchdowns, only 4 passing touchdowns on the year. Still plenty of football remaining in this one, so they don't have to worry about going away from what works for them in terms of keeping it on the ground. But Fort Lee's defense has been up to the challenge so far this evening and trying to make Teaneck beat them through the air. They'll line up with trips wide receivers to the bottom of the screen. One alone to the top side with a running back to the left side of Mixon. Mixon gets pressured off the edge, throws before that pressure comes to him. Had a man, but that pass was a little too long on the play, incomplete. Coverage on the play there by Jaden Lugo. Pressure was coming off the near side edge by Fort Lee. Mixon sensed that from his blind side, stepped up in the pocket. Again, had a man wide open down the far side as he had a step on Lugo, but just could not get it to him accurately. Incompletion sets up second down and 10 for Teaneck at the Fort Lee 43-yard line. Mixon claps his hands, gives it over to Perez. Perez bounces it to the left side and spun around forward. That'll actually give him extra yards down to around the 35-yard line. Gets down to the 35-yard line. It's going to be setting up 3rd down and 2. So Adriel Perez has been that change of pace back. That has led to some great opportunities on this drive now for Teaneck. As a receiver on a 1st and 17 to open up this drive after an initial holding call. And now making a play there on 2nd and 10. 3rd down and 2 upcoming for Teaneck. Perez will line up to the left side of Mixon in the shotgun look. Mixon, a dangerous runner of his own ilk. He'll fake the handoff. Game planning for that. Fordley anticipating. The run-pass option stayed with the QB. Mixon gets no gain on the play. That brings up 4th and 2. And it looks like it's going to be a timeout taken by Teaneck to freeze the clock with 1:48 left to go in quarter number 2. So Teaneck and head coach Harold Clark will talk things over. As I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, fans, Harold Clark in his 5th season as the head coach at Teaneck, but coaching as the head coach for the first time since 2018. He was the head man at the Castle on the Hill from 2015 to 2018, left as the head coach, and has come back and has resurrected this program, leading them after a 2-win season a season ago to 7 wins in 8 games this year, and putting them in a position under the lights here at Vince Lombardi Memorial Field to try to bring home some championship hardware for the first time since 2006. The problem is that they've run into a red-hot Fort Lee side here tonight. Fort Lee is playing an exceptional game, up 21-7, 4th and 2 upcoming, and you'd have to think that this is going to be a 4-down situation here for Teaneck. They keep their offense out on the field. The way that the offense has been playing for Fort Lee, you can't really afford to punt it away. You may not be getting a lot more offensive opportunities in this game. So 4th and 2, it's going to be a quarterback keeper by Mixon. Mixon will maneuver his way inside the 30-yard line. Still dives his way forward just outside the 25. Good enough for a 1st down on the play. Leposki making the tackle for Fort Lee, but Mixon picked up enough on the 4th and 2. The drive stays alive as we're coming up in the final 90 seconds of the first half. Inside the 30-yard line, down and around the 27-yard line for Teaneck, looking for their first offensive touchdown in the opening half. Mixon back to pass, throws it over to the near side, diving reception made inbounds as well. So Teaneck has to be aware and hurry to the line of scrimmage. Pass was complete to the tight end, Jaleel Timothy. Timothy, the 6'1 junior wideout who has 8 catches now on the season and 1 touchdown. 2nd down and 6, minimal gain there on 1st down. Open, wide open, down the field, touchdown, Teaneck, Jaleel Timothy. A breakdown just as we saw on the other side of the field on the Lugo reception for a touchdown. Nobody in the same area code there as Timothy hauls in his 2nd receiving touchdown of the season. And once again, Teaneck 1 point away from making this a 7-point deficit just before halftime. And for Teaneck, that was big considering that they will be receiving the kickoff to start the second half. A chance to bookend scores just as they were down by 2 scores. Extra point attempt by Kieran Short is no good, and that might be a costly point left off the board. The lead remains 8, 21-13 for Fort Lee with 51 seconds left to go here before halftime, but Jaleel Timothy hauls in his 2nd touchdown of the season. First touchdown pass of the night for Vance Mixon. So each quarterback with 1 touchdown pass apiece. And we have ourselves a dandy here under the lights. 21-13, Fort Lee on top of the Highwaymen of Teaneck. A pair of 7-1 teams duking it out for supremacy in the Ivy Division Championship. Fort Lee will have an opportunity here still to do something with it with 51 seconds left to go in the first half. Have a couple timeouts still in their back pocket as well, so they don't have to worry about just taking their eight-point lead and heading into the halftime locker room. They can still do some damage here late in the half. Sure, the kicker lost his balance as he booted that one away. It's going to be scooped up inside the 10-yard line. Fort Lee might have been better off just allowing that to carom its way out of bounds to the far side. I can understand that maybe the returner for Fort Lee a little nervous about having that be a live football and the return team maybe pouncing on it for Teaneck, but that might have been a situation of where the ball was bouncing. It would have gone out of bounds for an illegal procedure call, would have had better starting field position for Coach Salome's side, and we'll see what Fort Lee will do for the remainder of this first half. If they'll just elect to take an 8-point advantage with them into the break and take a kneel down here, or if they're going to be aggressive with 47 seconds left and try to do something with it. We're starting field position for the Bridgemen at their own 15-yard line. First down and 10. On top by 8, 21-13. Scored one rushing touchdown, one passing touchdown in offense. Have also thrown an interception that was returned for a score by the Teaneck defense. So a simple just running play over to the near side, and now with 30 seconds left to go in the first half, it's looking like Fort Lee is just going to be content with that 8-point advantage heading into the halftime, and knowing that Teaneck will start with the football to begin the second half of play with, again, 20 seconds and counting left to go here in quarter number 2. So you think just another running play here for Lau and company, and that'll do it for a well-played first half between these two 7-1 teams. As it's going to be a little trick play. That'll get the yardage out past the 20-yard line, but that will be the final play of the first half. 2 quarters in the books. Fort Lee, 24 minutes away from their first championship since 1983. At the break, they will lead Teaneck by a score of 21-13. Stick around as we'll be back for the start of the second half of play as you're watching all this Fort Lee football action here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel, your home for Bridgman football. Welcome back, everybody, here at Vince Lombardi Memorial Field in Palisades Park, New Jersey, as we're moments away for the resumption of play in the start of the second half. Fort Lee on top of Teaneck by a score of 21-13 here in the 2022 Ivy Division Championship game. Dan Long joined alongside by my main man Dimitri Nanis and Renee Matisich on camera. And we're so glad that he could join us here for Fort Lee football on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Fort Lee twice in that first half led by 14 points, but each time that they led by 2 scores, Teaneck had a way of cutting it back to within 1 score. Highwaymen scored a late touchdown to end that first half, missed the ensuing extra point, but they will be receiving the kickoff to start the second half of play, so a chance right now for the Highwaymen to claw their way back to within either 1 or even level if they go for 2. Both defenses have produced defensive scores of their own here today. A fumble return for a touchdown for Fort Lee, a pick 6 for Teaneck as we're underway at the start of the third quarter. On the squib kick, going to be taken from the far side, and good coverage there by Fort Lee will limit the damage from Myers' return to just a little outside the 35-yard line. It's going to be first down and 10 for Vance Mixon and the Teaneck Highwaymen offense. Mixon has thrown for 1 touchdown in that first half. That was a late score to his tight end Jaleel Timothy, who was wide open for his second receiving touchdown of the season. That pulled Teaneck back to within 8 at 21-13. Fort Lee has led on 2 occasions, 14-0 and 21-7. We'll see what the defense can do here after giving up 13 points in the first half. They shut out Pascack Hills a week ago, 13-0 in the semifinals. Again, the winner will snap a long championship drought here tonight and claim the divisional championship. As Teaneck will start off with a quarterback diagnosed run out to around the 40-yard line. 3-yard pickup, second down and 7, upcoming now for Mixon and company. Teaneck has not won a league title since 2006. Fort Lee even longer, 1983. Last time that they won a divisional championship. In this Ivy division, teams do not participate in the NJSIAA state tournament, but they are playing here after the regular season 2 playoff games. Both these teams won a week ago in their respective semifinal rounds, knocking off the team that bested the other opponent throughout the course of the season. Teaneck took down Cliffside Park. Pascack Hills, the victim of Fort Lee. Mixon over to the right side. Great blocks set up to the far side. He gets shouldered out of bounds late. I don't see any other laundry on the field. Doesn't look like it's going to be ruled as a late hit, but it would be enough on the scramble by Mixon for a first down on the play, just shy of midfield. So Mixon becoming more of a running threat to start off this first possession on offense at the start of the second half. Mixon, a 6'1", 180-pound junior, again had a rushing touchdown a week ago against Cliffside Park. And here tonight has thrown for 1 score, while his defense has also produced a defensive touchdown as well. First down and 10 at the Teaneck 49-yard line. It's going to be a handoff over to the near side and a tackle for a loss in the play, as Perez could not find a little running room there.
If you're parked illegally, please move your car. The tow truck will be checking to see if all cars are parked legally.
Second down and 11 upcoming now for Teaneck.
Thank you for your cooperation.
10:35 and counting left to go here in the third quarter.
Once again, please, if you're blocking any other vehicles, please move your vehicle. Within 5 minutes, tow trucks will be in the parking lot. Thank you.
Second down and 11 now for Teaneck after the loss of 1 by Adriel Perez there on that last play. And it's going to be a timeout taken by Teaneck. They still want to talk things over here, as they'll have a second down and 11 coming up for Teaneck at their own 48-yard line. So Teaneck now with their opening drive of the second half, just shy of midfield. It's going to be second down and 11. Again, Coach Clark being forced to take a timeout early here in the third quarter. We'll see if that's going to be a concern for him later on in this game. Using a timeout already so early in the second half of play. Perez motions from the near side to the far side. Mixon will hand it off on second and 11. They'll move it past midfield into Fort Lee territory down to the Bridgman 49-yard line. Third down and long now upcoming for Teaneck. Opening drive of the second half. They've scored one offensive touchdown in this game. A passing down here. We'll see if they'll actually go to the air. Mixon will drop back to pass, throw over to the far side, have a receiver. Good strong tackle made in space at around the 45-yard line. Sure-handed tackle there by Jaden Lugo. Missed tackles were a concern at parts in that first half for the Bridgmen, but they were able to wrap up there. And now it's going to be fourth down for Teaneck with the ball spotted at the Fort Lee 46-yard line. Teaneck keeping their offense on the field. They're going to go for it. Fourth down and about 5 for Mixon. Mixon, quick hitter to the far side, gets enough for the first down. And the drive will continue after the quick hitter to Adriel Perez on the far side. First meeting all time between these two schools. Fort Lee were the Ivy White co-champs. Teaneck finished second in the red division of the Ivy division. Mixon bouncing it wide to the far side. Gutierrez was trying to chase him down, but again, Mixon showing his shiftiness in the open field. Good opening start and starting drive to the second half for Teaneck. 8:59 left to go here in the third quarter. Fort Lee had a long sustained drive to begin the game back in the first quarter that lasted almost half of the quarter, but just could not finish it off in points. They turned it over on downs. Trying to do the same here against Teaneck. Mixon pump fakes. He'll try to drag it down and run himself, and he'll pick up really no gain on the play. He'll get it down to the 35-yard line. Good tackle. The open field by Ruben Mansilla, and now it's going to be third down and 5 upcoming for Teaneck. As the Fort Lee faithful trying to get loud, trying to get behind their defense here. Third down and 5, 8.5 minutes left to go in the third quarter. From the Fort Lee 35-yard line. Mixon, clean pocket, looks to go deep, jump ball, far side, underthrown. A little jockeying going on between DB and wideout, and there's no penalty flag on the field. Lugo with great coverage down that far side. Pass falls incomplete, fourth down and 5 now upcoming for Teaneck. The incompletion will stop the clock momentarily with 8:19 left to go in the quarter, and Coach Clark already went for it on fourth down earlier on in this opening drive of the third quarter. Do you expect him to go for it again here? Ball marked just inside the 35-yard line down to the 34. Chance of defense emanating from the stands underneath us in the press box here at Lombardi Memorial Field in Palisades Park. Little miscommunication early on in setting up the formation here for Teaneck. They've burned one timeout already in this opening drive. Now a motion over to the near side goes Perez. The snap, a penalty flag. It looks like it might be a motion call. The pass is complete to the near side for Perez, but this might be coming back.
However, there's a flag on the play.
All sorts of motion was going on pre-snap, and this might be a false start penalty upcoming against Teaneck. A legal shift call against Teaneck. That will negate what would have been enough for a first down conversion. So that negates that pass completion to Perez. And that's going to move the ball back to the 39-yard line. 5-yard penalty will replay fourth down, but now it's going to be fourth down and 10. Fourth down and 10 now for Teaneck. They keep their offense on the field again, not playing field position. Mixon back to pass, clean pocket. He'll get pressured, roll it over to the near side, throws off his back foot. Wounded Duck is almost intercepted, and it's almost better off that Fort Lee did drop the ball. They'll have better starting field position based on where that pass was dropped. It's going to move the ball, maybe a difference of about 20 yards on the play. Sure, Ron Leposki would have loved to have the interception in a title game, but the difference in field position is to the liking of Salome and the coaching staff of Fort Lee. They forced a turnover on downs, eerily similar to how the opening drive of the game ended for Fort Lee. And Fort Lee will take over first down and 10 at their own 39-yard line with 7:48 left to go here in the third quarter of play. It remains an 8-point advantage for Fort Lee, 21-13, the same lead they held heading into halftime. Lau handing it off. Now he's going to be met with a pre-snap penalty as a flag flew just before the handoff to Burns. But again, penalty looks like it might be marked off here. Penalty will go against Fort Lee. So we've seen in the last couple of plays, both teams guilty of illegal shift calls, and now it's going to be first down and 15 upcoming. Coming up on 7.5 minutes left to go in the third quarter. First down and 15 for Fort Lee. Leading 21-13 right now, but facing a first down and 15 from their own 34-yard line. It's a handoff to Burns, as Burns is going to be stacked up and limited on the play. And now some whistles and some pushing and shoving going on to the tail end of the play as well, as Burns was limited in that carry attempt.
Fans, once again, very important reminder. If you are parked blocking another vehicle from them being able to exit, please move your car at this time. Once again, please move your car if blocking another car in the parking lot. There are tow trucks ready to start working. Please get to your vehicles at this time.
So no gain on the play. It's going to set up a second down and 15 now for Fort Lee. Inside its own 35-yard line. 3 different player shifts before the course of the play. Burns gets the handoff again, runs to the right side, gets that initial penalty yardage back, and some, with a run of about 7 yards there on 2nd and 15, as that'll bring up about a third down and 8 now for the Bridgemen. Again, Burns was closing in on 1,000 yards if he got up to around 82 yards rushing in this game. Looks like that is going to be a certainty, the way that he's been running consistently throughout the course of this game. Third down and 8 now for Fort Lee. Teaneck's defense trying to get off the field immediately. This is the opening possession of the second half for the Bridgemen, in danger of having it end in a 3-and-out. Third down and 8 for Fort Lee at their own 41. Dropping back to pass, clean pocket for Lau. Lau dropping it over, dangerous play as coverage there by Justin Meyer. He was all over Burns to the near side. Nearly could have led to a second interception thrown on the night by Lau, as he was forcing that one into a covered area. Now it's going to be fourth down and 8, and the punting unit is going to check onto the field for Charles Salome. It is 4th season at the helm of Fort Lee's program. He's 16-17 overall, has led the Bridgemen to their most wins since 2016, where he has taken this program after having a winless opening season to now where they're 7-1 and playing for a championship. That is just a testament to him and his coaching staff and this turnaround here at Fort Lee. Defensive penalty, offsides the call against the Bridgemen. Fourth down and 8 is going to become fourth down and 3. They haven't moved the down marker yet, though. So they're going to say no penalty. Instead, it was just a sideline warning. So no 5 yards for offsides after the official had initially signaled that. Just a sideline warning. Next penalty for a sideline warning would result in 5 yards against Teaneck. So the punt is a clean one. That'll bounce for Teaneck, can be allowed to carry him all the way down, meander its way down to around the 20-yard line, and finally be deadened at around the 19. A good shift of field there by Fort Lee. And now Teaneck will take over on offense for the second time in this quarter, as we've already crossed by the midway point of quarter number 3. 21-13, Fort Lee on top of Teaneck here in the 2022 Ivy Division Championship.
The Super Football Conference is fortunate for the support of their sponsors. Or download the Super Football Conference app.
First down and 10 now for Teaneck. Mixon faked the handoff, threw it out instead to the flat to the far side. A late push also after Perez had scampered out of bounds. Fort Lee fortunate there not to possibly get called for
Yardage is good enough for a first
a
down.
late hit. But a fresh set of downs there on first down, as we're now seeing Fort Lee having to contend a little bit more defensively with the passing game of Mixon and Teaneck, as he's been just trying to get it out of the pocket quickly, is finding Perez as one of those threats releasing out of the backfield. First down and 10 for the Highwaymen with the ball spotted at their own 30-yard line, down by 8. 5:21 left to go in this third quarter. Teaneck has never led in this game. Ball goes over to the far side, and now they're starting to wear down a little bit of the front line of the defense for Fort Lee. It was tough sledding in that first half for the Highwaymen. They've made their necessary adjustments at halftime, and Teaneck is finding a little more running room than they certainly enjoyed in that first half of play. The ball moved out to the 36-yard line, gain of 6 on first down. Gain of 7, actually, as they'll have it marked as second down and about 3. Perez again, the motion man. Mixon, pump and go. And once again, just elects to dump it off to the far side, and that has worked wonders to Perez.
Mixon to Perez. First down.
Andrel Perez, the 5'7", 160-pound junior running back, has been the leading wide receiving threat so far in this second half. This would possibly open up potentially a big-time play down the side of the field to Jaleel Timothy, who had that uncovered touchdown just before halftime that made this a one-score game. And Coach Salome electing to use one of his second-half timeouts here on defense to give his defense a blow and talk things over. Fort Lee remains on top, 21-13 with 4:33 left to go, as you're watching all the action here in the third quarter of the 2022 Super Football Conference's Ivy Division Championship. So what type of adjustments now can Fort Lee make on defense? We saw a long opening drive to start off this third quarter that eventually ended in a turnover on downs. But Teaneck is starting to get a little consistency on offense. Here's Mixon. He gets tripped up as he just ventures past the 45-yard line down to the 47.
Vance Mixon on the keeper brings up second and a long 4.
So Mixon is starting to use his legs. He's also starting to use his arm a bit, finding Perez in the flat consistently. Haven't gone really vertically yet. I wonder to see if they're going to try to open up this secondary for Fort Lee based on how they've just been electing to dump it off and dump it down. There's Mixon again, blockers in front of him to the right side, spins away, finally gets taken down at around the Fort Lee 40, but that's enough for a Teaneck first down in the play.
Mixon on the edge for Teaneck.
Vance Mixon, the 6'1" junior quarterback, showing that he is a true dual threat here tonight. And Teaneck starting to use that recipe for success that Fort Lee enjoyed in the first half against the Bridgmen here, the ground and pound, and keeping the Bridgman defense guessing. First down and 10 for Teaneck, back in Fort Lee territory at the Bridgman 40-yard line. 3:50 left to go here in the third quarter. It remains the same score we had at halftime. Fort Lee holding on to a precarious 8-point lead. Perez again shifting over. It'll be a handoff this time to number 3, Tyree Porter Jr. And Porter Jr. is stacked up, but not before he gets around 5 yards on the carry. Second down and 5 upcoming. This is the case where you see in the first half the difference here in the second half. Fort Lee was winning first and second down repeatedly on defense. In the second half here, it's been Teaneck winning first and second down, winning with 5-yard clips, making it third and manageable if it gets to that point. Teaneck will hand it off. Good job there of Fort Lee stacking the inside, a gain of maybe 1 at most, and it's going to be third down and short upcoming now for Teaneck. Joel Rodriguez, number 57, was in on that tackle. Rodriguez, 29 tackles on the season coming into tonight. He had a big game last week. 5 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception against Pascack Hills. Third down and 3 now for Teaneck. Again, this might be 4-down territory, even if the Bridgemen make a stop here on third down. There's some pressure, and what a sidestep move there by Mixon. He froze the defender for Fort Lee that was in the backfield right beside him. Looked like it was Scott Hahn. Hahn was right there in the general vicinity to potentially make the tackle in the backfield for a loss in the play, and Mixon just stopped on a dime, let Hahn fly by him, and that bought him a chance for some positive yards. It's going to be 4th and inches upcoming now. Ball spotted just outside the 30-yard line. Fort Lee's defense made a stand in the opening possession of the third quarter, trying to make a stand here as well. Mixon alone in the backfield. He now operates under center. Quick snap, tries to push the pile forward. And with the spot, he needed to get to the 30-yard line. Right now, it's being spotted inside the 30. That should be enough for another Teaneck first down. All the movement there in the pre-snap trying to surprise and confuse Fort Lee. It looked like Mixon was going to be lining up in the shotgun. Quickly, he went to the line of scrimmage, got the snap, and just pushed the pile in front of him, got the necessary yardage he needed to get to the 30. We haven't seen an official sign yet for a first down, as there is an injured Bridgeman player being attended to by Tom Herr and the rest of the training staff of Fort Lee football. Again, but it looks like from the initial spot by the officials, around the 29-yard line should be enough for a first down, as Ruben Mansilla is the injured player right now for Fort Lee, number 56. Mansilla, a 5'10", 209-pound senior, had 11 tackles in the win against Pascack Hills a week ago. He's one of those focal points of that interior linebacking core for Fort Lee on defense. 60 tackles on the season for number 56, who's in all sorts of pain. So again, Fort Lee will attend to the injury. We'll take the timeout on the field as well. 2:25 remaining here in the third quarter. It still remains a 21-13 lead for Fort Lee here in the 2022 Super Football Conference's Ivy Division Championship. So Mansilla is the injured Bridgman player, and he is slowly making his way off the field, not putting a lot of weight on his leg, and he is obviously very upset. He is one of the emotional leaders of this defense. He's trying to plead his case to Coach Salome, but even if he wanted to keep him in the game, he could not, as he has to sub off the field for at least one play before getting back on. First down and 10 now for Teaneck. It was good enough for a first down there. It's going to be a new quarterback in the game. Lofting this one is Aaron Lugo. Jump ball just outside the goal line. Broken up there by Fort Lee. So a new quarterback has checked onto the field for Harold Clark for that one play. It was number 4, Aaron Lugo. Lugo, the 5'10", 170-pound junior quarterback, came in just as a throwing option there, as now Vance Mixon has come back onto the field for the Highwaymen. Second down and 10 after the incomplete pass. Ball spotted on the far hash mark at the Fort Lee 29. No points so far in this second half between the two teams. Mixon, play action, drops it off to the far side. That was a great job of covering that route. After again they link up on a small gain to Perez. Fort Lee has been victimized by that same play since the second quarter. But this time around, it was a nice job of diagnosing that play. Lugo got over in space and made the play defensively for Fort Lee. Now it's going to be third down and about 9. 2:09 left to go here in the third quarter. Mixon stays in at quarterback, steps up in the pocket, gets pressured, throws off his back foot. It's a wobbler in the end zone, caught at the 1 yard line, into the end zone. Touchdown, Teaneck! That was a touchdown pass that only Demetrius Owens could come down with. And what a play made by the freshman. The 6'1 freshman on a wounded duck wobbler of a throw. Just high pointed that one and simply out-jumped the Fort Lee defender. Held on to it at the 1 yard line and then had enough momentum to cross the goal line for the touchdown. And Teaneck, with the first points of the second half, have pulled back to within 2 with 2 minutes exactly remaining here in the third quarter. And it looks like Coach Clark is chasing after the points, going for the 2-point try, which would deadlock this score at 21-21. So the offense stays on the field for the Highwaymen. Teaneck trying to convert here to tie the score up at 21-21. Trying to tie this game up for the first time in a long time. Mixon lobs it over to the far side, had a man open, but rushed the throw. And that pass is off the mark. It goes incomplete. Mixon even had plenty of room if he wanted to just tuck it down and run it in. But his throw to Perez was off the mark. Fort Lee will remain in front, but what was once a 14-point lead has been trimmed down to only 2. 21-19, Fort Lee on top, with 2 minutes exactly remaining here in the third quarter of play at a big-time venue here in Palisades Park, New Jersey. Vince Lombardi Memorial Field, what a venue, and this place has been packing up in terms of the amount of fans still making their way in. You can see the far side bleachers starting to be full and filled to capacity after Teaneck really didn't have a big crowd early on in this game, and the home bleachers in front of us have been full from the start for the Fort Lee faithful. Now the Bridgemen have to find a return here. They find a big return down the far side, past midfield, into Teaneck territory. All the way down to the 35-yard line. Outstanding return by Jalen Balbuena. Just what Coach Salome and the Bridgemen of Fort Lee were hoping for. A huge return there. Gets the ball into Teaneck territory. First down and 10 for the Bridgemen. Officially going to be marked out of bounds at around the Teaneck 36-yard line. So Fort Lee, who have not scored yet here in the second half, have great starting field position on this drive that will begin with 1:51 remaining in the third quarter. 21-19, Fort Lee on top of Teaneck. Lau handles the low snap, hands it off to Burns. Burns charges his way like a bull in a china shop right down the middle of the field. Inside the 25-yard line, that's enough for a first down. Here come the Bridgemen quickly. Helter-skelter getting to the line of scrimmage, and that might have cost them a couple of yards there, not having a couple players set. False start penalty against the offense. That time they needed to just be better suited to settle things down a bit before running that play. Loss of 5 in the play, first down and 15 now as we're approaching the final 90 seconds of the third quarter. Fort Lee has never trailed in this game. They've led by 14 on 2 separate occasions. Teaneck has clawed their way back to 2, 21-19. Fort Lee trying to respond to the Teaneck touchdown with a drive of their own. First and 15 after the motion call. Here's a handoff to a fresh tailback and Aiden Colon. Colon catapults his way forward to around the 15-yard line. 13-yard pickup there on first and 15. Colon with his first carry of the night. Colon, who had a season-high 203 rushing yards and a touchdown in a win against Memorial on October 13th. Colon a change of pace there at that tailback spot, giving Burns a breather. Now it's going to be second down and short after his first and 15 prior to that Colon run. Colon again will get the handoff, makes that first defender miss, carries a couple of defenders with him inside the 10-yard line. It's going to be first and goal for Fort Lee coming up with 30 seconds left to go here in the third quarter of play. Colon has come in and become a factor here on this drive after a couple of nice runs here. Now a second timeout's going to be taken in this third quarter by Teaneck on defense. They took their opening timeout of the third quarter on offense in a drive that did not end in points. Very interesting that Coach Clark is electing to use his second half timeout here with his team on defense here deep in their own end. When again, it's going to be a first and goal situation upcoming for the Bridgemen. We'll take the timeout with them as Fort Lee threatening for their first points of the second half. 26 seconds remaining in the third quarter. 2-point lead for Fort Lee. First and goal at the 8-yard line out of the timeout here for Fort Lee. Only 26 seconds left to go here in the third quarter. Fort Lee looking for their first touchdown since the second quarter. Burns back in the game, bouncing it to the left side, is tied up as he gets it down to around the 5-yard line, inside the 5, closer probably to the 4. Second and goal upcoming. Tajon Burns with 1 touchdown run, Jaden Lugo with 1 touchdown catch. Fort Lee also with a defensive touchdown as well, produced by Lugo. And speaking of Lugo, he is being attended to on the sideline for Fort Lee, and he's in a lot of pain as well. So if they're without the services of Lugo and also one of their other defensive stars in Ruben Mancilla, this might make this a much more difficult fourth quarter upcoming for Coach Salome and the Bridgemen. But they will wait until the start of the fourth quarter to run their second and goal play upcoming from the 5-yard line. Stick around as we have an exciting conclusion on the horizon. Fort Lee, 12 minutes away from a championship, on top by 2 points, 21-19, as you're watching Bridgemen football here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. What a game. This game has lived up to the billing here. 7-1 Teaneck taking on 7-1 Fort Lee. Fort Lee leading 21-19. Threatening for their first second half points here. It's going to be second and goal at the 5. Cologne back into the game. Cologne bouncing it off after initially getting knocked it around the line of scrimmage. Great job after the yards after contact there for Aiden Cologne. Cologne with 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. Now it's going to be third and goal upcoming for Fort Lee. The ball is going to be marked inside the 1-yard line. Teaneck desperately looking for a goal line stand here. You'd have to think that you got to get into the hands of number 26, Burns. It didn't work when they tried to run a Wildcat set early in this game. Lau remains in at quarterback. Third and goal from inside the 1. Burns to the left side. Touchdown, Fort Lee. Tajon Burns, the senior, with his second rushing touchdown of the game, his 12th rushing touchdown of the season. Burns over 1,000 rushing yards on the year, and Fort Lee has extended their lead here to 8 points, and this is a big extra point upcoming. Kotso Giannis now on for the extra point to try to make this a 2-score lead. His kick is up and is good. 9-point lead for Fort Lee, 28-19, with 11:17 left to go in the fourth quarter. Talk about an answer on that touchdown drive for Fort Lee after Teaneck had scored late in the third quarter to pull to within 2. Fort Lee with that big kickoff return by number 4, Jalen Balbuena. He set them up in a short field, and then they punched it in from 35 yards out on the second rushing touchdown of the night by Tajon Burns. And Fort Lee has exploded here after being held shut out in the third quarter. They scored just seconds into the start of the fourth quarter, and once again, with that successful extra point, have extended their lead to 2 scores. They lead by 9, 28-19. And the Fort Lee fans have a lot to be thankful for and to cheer here tonight. Their team has played a great game. Teaneck, no slouches either. What an atmosphere. Again, this stadium filled up. Didn't seem like we'd have a big crowd once kickoff started at 6, but I think everyone got through the traffic of Bergen County and made their way here under the lights, and this has lived up to the hype. Richardson, after fumbling that one initially, got the ball, got the return out past the 35. And good to see Ruben Mansilla back on the field. Again, he's one of those emotional spark plugs for this defense. You knew the way that he was lobbying, despite the heavy limp he showed, he was going to find his way somehow, some way onto the field. Again, right now, Mansilla is back on the field. Lugo is not. Lugo is on the trainer's table being looked at right now. First down and 10 for Teaneck, facing a 9-point deficit with 11-12 left to go here in the fourth quarter. First and 10 from their own 38-yard line. Mixon stepping it up, throws off his back foot to the near side to Richardson. Richardson makes the first man miss. There is a penalty flag, though, behind the play. Would be good for a first down, but there was a penalty flag thrown right when that play was first developing, and the flag is inside the Teaneck 35. Normally is in the area of what would be a hold. They haven't marked it off just yet, so we'll see if this is going to be a penalty against the offense. And it looks like it's a legal man downfield is the penalty against the Highwaymen, so that negates what would have been enough for a big first down and past midfield. So I think they're discussing where to mark this off. It should be a 5-yard penalty. So you had one of those linemen that was a legal man downfield. So there were 2 penalties on the play. So it was a legal man downfield. That was a 5-yard variety. That was declined. Then there was a holding call against Teaneck. The spot of the foul with the 10 yards is going to be a much bigger penalty. So Coach Salome will certainly elect to accept the holding call. So that'll move the ball back inside the Teaneck 25 to the Highwaymen 23-yard line. 1 minute gone by here in a fourth quarter that already has had its moments. 28-19, Fort Lee on top, looking for their first league title since 1983. Mixon over to the far side to Perez, out in space to make that tackle is Burns, showing that he's not just a one-trick pony on offense, but making the play there on defense. Tajon Burns came into this game with 29 tackles on the season on defense. Had 8 tackles in the semifinal win against Pascack Hills last week. Second down and long now for Teaneck. Have to get it to their own 48 to continue this drive. Mixon sidesteps another defender. What pocket awareness. Again makes a defender miss. That leads to an additional 5 or 6 yards on the play after looked like Mixon was going to get sacked on 2 separate occasions. Gabe Jimenez, the leading tackler for this Fort Lee defense, with 77 stops on the year. He was the one who missed that prime opportunity. And Mixon using his feet to well advantage. He now moves it down to the 45-yard line. So Mixon twice avoided a sack and keeps this drive going. Third down and 3 now for Teaneck at their own 45. Mixon will keep it himself to the left side. Spins through a defender. He put him in the spin cycle there. Froze him right at the line of scrimmage. Mansilla, who already is playing on a gimpy ankle, was no fair fight there. As Mixon is putting on a show here in the second half. First down and 10 now for Teaneck out at midfield. Mixon again getting pressured. And he gets sacked from behind and brought down finally by Joel Rodriguez. Rodriguez now his 3rd sack of the season, tying him with teammate Gabe Jimenez for the team lead. Rodriguez has been coming off the blind side all game long, but Mixon has had that innate ability to sense his presence and step up and avoid the sack. He could not do it there. Loss on the play of 4, second down and 14. Mixon with Rodriguez again. Rodriguez back-to-back sacks. Rodriguez is getting a step on that offensive lineman. Mixon has nowhere to go. Rodriguez back-to-back sacks. And the defense now stepping up here in the fourth quarter in money time for Fort Lee with under 9 minutes left to go in regulation. 3rd and 18 now for Teaneck after back-to-back tackles for losses. Mixon with a happy feet, sets and fires down the field, jump ball, and that's going to be incomplete on the play. 4th down upcoming, and now it's an interesting dilemma here for Coach Clark of Teaneck. 8:37 left to go. It's a 9-point game. Do you go for it here with the ball on your side of the 50? It's going to be 4th down and long with this play happening at your own 42-yard line. And it looks like the decision has been made. The punt unit coming out onto the field as it looks like this is going to be a punting situation. And I think it's the right decision for Teaneck. It's still only a 9-point lead for Fort Lee. If you go for it here and you turn it over on downs, it's another short field for the Bridgemen who could put this one away. High snap hailed by Richardson, just gets off the low line drive kick. It'll be bouncing away as Fort Lee not taking any chances. Burns will not look to field it. It will roll its way down to the 26-yard line. They flip the field position. It's now going to be 1st down and 10 upcoming for Fort Lee with a chance here with a scoring drive to really put this one out of position. Fort Lee capped off a 35-yard scoring drive the last time out on offense with a Burns touchdown run. The way that this game's going, it feels like if Fort Lee can make their way down the field and punch this one in for a touchdown, that might be the decisive blow in this heavyweight showdown tonight. 1st down and 10 for the Bridgemen at their own 26-yard line. Low snap again. That'll be the interior handoff, though. And they make something out of nothing. Cologne, what a spark here in the second half. Credit the hands of Raymond Lau, the quarterback for Fort Lee. He kept that play going despite a very low snap. And he somehow got it into the breadbasket of Cologne. And Cologne just charged his way right up the middle. Aiden Cologne, the junior. What a difference maker here in the second half. And just like that, one play crosses midfield into Teaneck territory. 1st and 10 at the 45. Now Fort Lee can take advantage and maybe take a little more time off the clock in between plays here. Time is on their side. And they're doing just that before they hand it off to Burns. Burns is going to be upended on the play. Justin Meyer got there first.
1-yard pickup for Burns. 2nd down and 9.
Michael Reddick also was there in the spot to make that tackle. Big number 99, the 6'2", 265-pound junior defensive tackle in on the spot. The stop with Justin Meyer, the 6'1", 205 senior linebacker. He's the heart and soul of this defense in the middle of the D. 2nd down and 9 now for Fort Lee. Approaching the final 7 minutes of regulation. 9-point lead for the Bridgemen, who have never trailed in this championship game. Once again, it's going to be Burns. Waits for the blocker to develop on the far side and does a good job of keeping his legs moving down to the 41-yard line. Coming up on the midway point of the 4th quarter. Fort Lee taking a little more time to milk a little more time off the scoreboard here. Enjoying a 9-point lead. This might also be 4-down territory for the Bridgemen if they don't pick this up. Kind of in a no man's land area on the field right now. And it's going to be 3rd down and 5, and they're going to bleed down the clock to maybe 1 on the play clock. Here's going to be a handoff to Cologne, back into the game, and another 1st down. Despite the tackle by Alexander Kaba, it was Cologne who did not get a carry, I believe, in the entire first half. He has been shot out of a cannon every time he has touched the football here in the second half. And now it's going to be a fresh set of downs for the Bridgemen to work with. 1st down and 10 inside the Teaneck 35-yard line at the Highwaymen 34. Time on the side of the Bridgemen, and also this is where it looms rather large that Teaneck has taken already 2 timeouts here in the second half. Teaneck with only 1 timeout left at their disposal. So this clock can just continue to be milked down as much as possible with every snap of the football. Lau will hand it off to Burns, sidesteps a couple of defenders. Ball pops free! It's a turnover possibly here. Did Fort Lee pop on it in time? Or is this going to be a takeaway for the defense of Teaneck again here tonight? Pigskin pops free, and it will be a turnover as Teaneck gets a much-needed turnover here late in regulation. 5:19 left to go in the 4th quarter. Don't go anywhere, fans. This one's not over yet. Fort Lee was making its way down the field. They were doing a great job of carving off time as well. But then Burns, normally sure-handed, got that popped free. That's a 2nd big turnover forced by Teaneck here tonight. And now it's going to be 1st down and 10 for the Bridgemen, or for the Highwaymen, I should say, at their own 35-yard line in a do-or-die situation here, down by 9 and knowing time is of the essence. Trips wide receivers line up to the near side. From Mixon, who looks for the bubble screen set up to the far side. Trying to rotate around to the near side and gets it out to around the 40, a pickup of 5 yards. As Fort Lee was trying to say that ball was popped out. Ball was ruled down by contact, so no fumble on the play. As again, a round of applause as being carted off the field behind the sideline was again the injured Jaden Lugo of Fort Lee. Hopefully he's going to be okay. Mixon could not get free, and he's brought down by Burns. A tackle for a loss on the play. And Mixon also slow to get to his feet as he was awkwardly thrown backwards as well, as Mixon might have had his foot and leg trapped underneath him on that play there, as he was going backwards, was trying to sidestep the defender, and again, he's hurt and slow to get to his feet as well, with 4:37 left to go here in the fourth quarter. As Fort Lee trying to hold on here, 28-19 their lead on top of Teaneck. A fumble was forced by the Teaneck defense to try to stay within striking distance here. But now the big concern is the health of Vance Mixon, the 6'1 junior. The quarterback, who has been such a good quarterback in this game, is injured right now, being looked at by training staffs of both sides. As while both teams huddle, we'll take the injury timeout as well. 4:37 left to go here in the fourth quarter, as you're watching coverage of the 2022 Ivy Division Championship game here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Third down and 7 now for Teaneck here after the injury to Mixon. Back to pass, it's Lugo. Lugo off his back foot, just short hops that one. Had an intended target in Demetrius Owens. Owens would have had enough for the first down if they got it to him, but it was just short hopped on the play, and a little different from last time when they punted. I think that if you're Teaneck, you have to go for it here. You're down by 2 scores with only 4:22 left to go. Time is of the essence. I don't think you could think that you might have that many possessions available to you if you don't go for it here. 4th down and 7 now the case. Aaron Lugo in at quarterback for the injured Vance Mixon. Fort Lee looking for a stop here, trying to get a turnover on downs on 4th and 7. Lugo rolls it to the far side, identical to the last play. This time he completes it in stride to Adriel Perez. And Teaneck will have their hopes kept alive here on a first down after the conversion on 4th down. 4:15 left to go in regulation. 1st down and 10 for Teaneck, just shy of midfield to their own 49-yard line. They convert on a 4th and 7 to keep hope alive. Lugo, he's getting pressured by Rodriguez, who has 2 sacks in this 4th quarter, and he completes it on a bullet pass right in front of the Teaneck far sideline. Into Fort Lee territory, down at around the... It's going to be marked out of bounds at around the 46-yard line. Thanks for tuning in to a great one here tonight under the lights in Palisades Park, New Jersey. The Ivy Divisional Championship on the line. Fort Lee up by 9. Lugo Throws it over to the far side. A diving reception made there, and that's going to be enough for first down for Teaneck. Jaleel Timothy, who had a first half touchdown catch, made that catch there to move the chains. So Teaneck now operating down the field. The clock continues to run. 3:55 and counting now. Teaneck with only one timeout at their disposal. Lugo back to pass. Fires it over to the far side. And that tipped over the hands. Incomplete. Second down and 10, and at least a good thing for Teaneck. That will stop the clock at least and have 3:46 still left in this game. Both teams have gone long stretches without winning a league championship. Each team also has one sectional title in school history. Fort Lee won their football sectional championship back in 1960. Teaneck co-champions in 1958. This game means so much to both these schools on an impressive 2022 season. Who will finish 8-1 on the year and a champion? Lugo, pitch and catch to the far side. Tackle made to keep Owens in bounds. That's a big play there defensively by Fort Lee to try to keep the clock going. Now is it going to be a timeout taken by Teaneck? Right now they motioned that it would be time. No, they're going to say that just respotting the ball, the referee was signaling for the clock to continue to roll, despite the umpire was pointing to the far sideline like it was going to be a timeout granted. Under 3.5 minutes left to go. It's going to be third and short now for Teaneck. Again, everything is 4 downs or bust here for Teaneck. Lugo shifts his weight, fires to the far side. That time fell off the hands of Richardson. Incomplete. And here's your ball game upcoming. 4th down and 3. We've seen since coming into this game that Lugo has preferred rolling the pocket to his left side to find his wide receivers. He has not really found any success coming to the near side of the field. And will Fort Lee try to figure that way of where they could line up defensively? A stop here pretty much would seal this game for Fort Lee. 4th down and short. And there's a penalty flag flying. And is it going to be a false start penalty in a crucial spot against the offense? Teaneck was frustrated. They thought initially it was going to be against them. Instead, it's going to be a timeout granted to Fort Lee. So they will pick up the penalty flag. It looked like it was going to be a false start penalty against Teaneck. That would have made it about a 4th and 8. A couple of the offensive players were incredulous and feeling like that was going to be such a missed opportunity, but instead, Coach Salome was granted a timeout. He was upset. He wanted to take back the timeout and take the penalty. So it will remain 4th and 3 and a timeout burned here by Fort Lee. Now both teams down to one final timeout here in regulation. Teaneck on a 7-game win streak on the season coming into tonight's game. After losing their season opener against Pascack Hills, Fort Lee has come into this game having won 6 straight after their lone defeat came in their 2nd game of the year against Cliffside Park. Fort Lee has led this game throughout. They have led by as many as 14 points twice this evening. Teaneck has pulled within 2 points earlier on in the second half. They were trying to tie it up but missed on the 2-point try. Now here's the game, 4th and 3 for Teaneck. 3:12 remaining in the 4th quarter. And again, penalty flags. And is this going to be a motion call or is it going to be offsides against the defense? There's a little dancing going on in the backfield, but it's going to be a defensive penalty, and Fort Lee will gift a first down by moving past the neutral zone. They fell for the pre-snap motion in the backfield. They didn't play the ball, and that leads to a fresh set of downs. And again, 1st down and 10 now for Teaneck. 4th and 3, 1st down, and now a penalty. And this time it looks like penalty and movement against the left side of the Teaneck line. Now it's going to be 1st down and 15. So both teams getting a little sloppy here, a little anxious in the waning moments of this broadcast in this game. 3:12 remaining. 1st down and 15 now for Teaneck. With the ball with the penalty moved outside the Fort Lee 30. This is a must-score drive for Coach Clark's Teaneck Highwaymen. If they want to have any chance of producing a heroic comeback. Lugo, the backup quarterback, will scramble his way to the left side. He'll venture his way out of bounds and also stop the clock in the process. Again, Aaron Lugo has come into this game here in the fourth quarter after Vance Mixon was rolled up on after he was tackled trying to sprint out of the pocket to the near side. Fort Lee is playing without the services of Jaden Lugo, one of their outstanding dual threat players on offense and defense. Second and long. Lugo lobs it to the far side. That was nearly picked off. That could have been the ball game for Fort Lee. Stang was the man there to make the break on the ball. He has one interception on the season, and the senior could have led his team to the promised land there. Instead, Teaneck will live to fight another day again. It's going to be third down and about 13. This drive already has been kept alive on a defensive penalty on a 4th and 3. Now it's third down and 13. Fort Lee fans so anxious to celebrate here. Teaneck still keeping hope alive. Third down and 13. Lugo, pump fake. He's going to get pressured and brought down for a sack. Third sack of the fourth quarter by Joel Rodriguez. Rodriguez was credited with 2 sacks all season long coming into this game. He's got 4 sacks in this fourth quarter. Big plays in big time. And now here we go, fourth down and long. With the ball back to the 39-yard line, they've got to get it to around the 19. Rodriguez again, pressured, tipped, deflected, incomplete on fourth down. And it's going to be a turnover on downs for Teaneck as Fort Lee will take over with 2:27 left to go in regulation. 2:27 away from a championship. So a big stand there on fourth down, and think back to the fourth quarter defensive production of Joel Rodriguez. Rodriguez with 3 sacks in this fourth quarter alone has put his team in a position in 2 minutes and 27 seconds to hoist a championship trophy for the first time since 1983. Last week in their shutout win against Pascack Hills, Fort Lee's defense had 4 sacks and an interception. They have a defensive touchdown here tonight. They've started to get to the quarterbacks in the fourth quarter. And this defense has been lights out all season long, and they've played up to that reputation here in the final against another solid opponent. 28-19 the lead for Fort Lee as they try to salt this one away. The handoff is to Cologne to the near side. Last possession ended in a turnover for Fort Lee on a fumble. Second down and 8. Teaneck with 1 timeout left. They can only stop the clock once more in this game. The defense trying to look for a quick 3 and out to maybe keep hope alive still and get the ball back on a punt. But again, Fort Lee should be in no rush. They should be trying to take as much time off the clock as possible before snapping the ball on each play. Under 2 minutes now left to go in regulation. Second down and 8. Run blitz coming. Into the backfield and swallowing up Cologne is Meyer. Meyer's had a great game as well. Meyer had 9 tackles last week in the semifinal win against Cliffside Park. The senior linebacker again has been all over the field. After that tackle for a loss in the play and a loss of 2, that's where Coach Clark is going to use his 3rd and final timeout to stop the clock with 1:35 remaining. So you have to think that Coach Salome is going to run the ball here again on 3rd down, take as much time off the clock, maybe even think about using a timeout, and then punt the ball away. So when Teaneck takes over, they're not going to have that much time left. Not much over a minute left for them to try to produce 2 scores here. They're down by 9. That's why that extra point conversion by Stasi Kotsogiannis was so key upon the touchdown by Fort Lee early on in the fourth quarter. It was an 8-point game, and Kotsogiannis was able to then split the uprights and make this a 9-point advantage. To think back at one point in the third quarter, Teaneck had pulled within 2, but were unsuccessful in their 2-point try. That's been a big factor in this game. 3rd down and 10 out of the timeout. It's going to be handed off to Balbuena. He's got to stay in bounds. A first down will pretty much seal this one. As Fort Lee will get the first down, Balbuena will go out of bounds. And I think at that point, Coach Salome is going to be okay with his ball carrier still going out of bounds. He would have wanted him to stay in bounds. But that's going to be enough for a first down, and now the time is going to be wound down as time is on the side of the Bridgemen. They've been waiting quite some time to celebrate as a football program. This program looking to go to 8 wins for the first time since 1985 and to celebrate for the first time a championship since 1983. As they will go into their favorite formation, the victory formation, with a kneel down by Raymond Lau. And again, fans, Coach Salome in his 4th season at the helm of this Bridgman program. To think back to his first season, the team went winless, 0-10 during the season, to see where they are now, about to go to 8-1, about to win their final 7 games of the season, and about to capture the Ivy Division Championship. Will be another kneel down by Raymond Lau, part of this senior class that's going to celebrate a title here, as Fort Lee is going to celebrate in style here at Vince Lombardi Memorial Field. The celebration is on, and it's a party like 1983. Fort Lee, as it's ticking down to just the final 10 seconds, on their way to a celebration. An 8-1 campaign for the Bridgemen, as Fort Lee will finish off 2022 having won 7 straight games, as that is your final score here from Palisades Park, New Jersey. Fort Lee 28 and Teaneck 19. Teaneck played a great game themselves. They rallied to within 2 points in the second half. Fort Lee had the deciding answer in the second half, as they willed their way to a championship here in this neutral site game, and will finish off the year 28-19. Again, Teaneck will finish 7-2 as their program has continued to grow under Harold Clark's watch, and they will be a factor in years to come. But the celebration is on here for the Bridgemen, as Fort Lee will finish 8-1 and celebrate under the lights here on a Thursday night. They knocked off Pascack Hills, who was previously undefeated a week ago, and now take down Teaneck, that came in having won 7 straight games as well this season. And as taking care of business starts to emanate around the stadium, that's exactly what Fort Lee did here. What a historic season for the Bridgemen, their first 8-win season since 1985, their first championship season since 1983. And we were witness to a fun one here this evening. Thank you so much to fans from both schools for tuning in here tonight. Courtesy of this broadcast being presented by the Fort Lee Athletics Department on YouTube. Again, congratulations to Charlie Salome and his Fort Lee Bridgemen, your 2022 Super Football Conference Ivy Division champions. As the team will celebrate and will be presented the championship silver trophy on the field, and we'll take the pictures with them at midfield as Dennis Nelson, the head of the Super Football Conference, hands off the trophy to Coach Salome, as Salome holds it behind his back as the celebration is about to begin, as he's talking it over with his team. All the sweat, all the time put in practice from the summer hours to now, a celebration that's worthwhile here in early November. And again, where this program has come from in the last couple of years to where it currently resides now. Salome hoists the hardware, the trophy, and the championship celebration is on. Fort Lee, your 2022 Ivy Division champions. Congratulations to Fort Lee, and thank you, fans, for tuning in to this broadcast. For our camera operator, Renee Matisich, for our producer and DJ, Dimitri Nanis, I'm Dan Long, saying so long from Palisades Park, Fort Lee, your champions of football.